Grim Dawn's 1.1.6 patch has arrived, and it's loaded with words. First up, introduced in this update, is the new Totem loot system. While traversing around the world of Cairn, players will now encounter semi-randomly placed totem shrines indicated by this symbol on their maps. The totem locations are somewhat predictable, similar to how dynamite troves spawn. The totems will behave similarly to desecrated devotion shrines, spawning pools of enemies, and upon completion of killing off the enemies, it will spit out a barrage of loot. The shrines can be encountered on all difficulties with varying challenge. These totems come in 6 different flavors: Ethereal, Chthonic, Beast, Corvin Beast, Eldritch, and Undead. Each totem type has 3 different difficulty tiers. You can tell the difficulty by their sort of corresponding glow effect. Of course, the more challenging the totem, the better the loot. It was also said during the developer stream that each totem has different types of spawn pools with different enemy spawn weights, so the enemy encounter types should be different on each totem. With this new totem system comes new items specific to these encounters. 10 new legendaries can drop from these to be exact. In addition to new legendaries from the totems, there have been 4 new monster infrequent rares added to the game, all of which are medals. 2 can drop from our friend Igor the Eternal in the Steps of Torment, and 2 of which can drop from Lagathek Harbinger of Blood in Bastion of Chaos. In the past, I found myself skipping these bosses if I was in a rush, so these items should breathe a little bit more life into these 2 challenge dungeons. According to the patch notes, there have been many back-end changes that should result in increased performance when many monsters are present on the screen. These changes come in preparation for the Xbox release of the game. I did want to test this. The Port Valbury areas are pretty guilty of bad performance due to monster density, so I ran from the Port Valbury outskirts portal to the Port Valbury gate 5 times on patch 1.1.5 and 5 more times on the new patch, with these settings using an RX 580 and a 12-core 1920X CPU, if you're into that sort of thing. I personally didn't see a difference with my PC, averaging 69 frames per second on the old patch and 72 frames per second on the new patch. Maybe there just needs to be even more monster density to really see improvement. I'm sure mileage will vary here. Let me know what you guys think. Is the game performing any better for you? The in-game loot filter is seeing one change. We now have the option to always show double rares versus only show double rares. Previously, you needed the monster infrequent and rare checkboxes selected under the quality section in conjunction with the only show double rare checkbox for you to see double rare drops. Whew. Little confusing. But now, regardless of any other parameters, double rares will show up on the ground no matter what with this revised option checked off. This is a nice addition to the game. Shadow Realm loot on higher tiers on normal and elite difficulty got their epic to legendary ratios adjusted. But the total amount of unique drops, that being legendary and epics combined, will remain the same. However, it does not say whether the legendary drops were increased or decreased. Just for a quick test, I ran SR 75 through 76 on normal and elite, 3 times on the old patch, and 3 times on the new patch. And we can see here, previously we were getting a range of 7 to 9 legendaries on normal, but are now seeing about 6 to 7 on normal. So a small reduction there. As for elite, we were seeing 9 to 12 legendaries on the old patch, quite a broad range, and now in the new patch we are seeing more like 11. I got 11 all 3 times. That's a little bit more inconclusive right now, and will require a bit more testing overall for all of this, really. Generally speaking, it doesn't seem like a huge nerf to the loot system at a glance. Higher tier SRs on lower difficulties are still viable for farming purples for sure. I made a spreadsheet months ago now with close to 1,000 points of data collecting drops from all of these sorts of runs. This now needs to be reworked with the latest tweaks for sure, but bear with me on updating that one. But in addition to loot changes though, the Death's Waystone can now spawn you as high as shard 210 for you psychopaths out there. The timer penalty for dying now scales with shard level, and the buff you receive for picking up essences has been nerfed down to 6% per stack from 8%, I believe it was before. On to some Crucible changes. The biggest change to Crucible are the defense points. The Stormcaller Beacon has gotten a nerf with its max targets and resist reduction being reduced. I think this one was expected, but the Death Chill Beacon, Inferno Beacon, and Stonewall Banner were all buffed. I'm not a hardcore Crucible runner myself, but I'd be interested to see what people think of these changes. Aside from the defense point modifications, the Might of Amatok 25-minute buff you can receive from Terralia has had its damage modifier reduced by 2%, but its pet damage modifier increased by 2%. Next, all partial components have been removed from the game. Yes, that's a very unexpected change, so all of the partial, like 1 of 4 or 2 of 4 components that were once in your bags will now be transformed into a completed component. Partials literally don't exist anymore. With that said, the combined component button in your stash is no longer needed and has been removed from the game. Do note that the auto sort button was relocated where the autocomplete component button once lived, so you'll be misclicking this one for a while, I presume. In other stash news, we can now Control-C and Control-V to copy and paste text from search box to search box now. This simply didn't work before, so a slight little quality of life update there. Leap abilities from runes have had their distance increased. I did a side-by-side here. You can kind of see the increase in distance. This isn't quite substantial, however. Also, Tier 3 Rush-style runes have had their distance reduced, although I really don't see a difference at all. But I did want to test it. And about every item in the game changed somehow. I obviously cannot go over all these items. Generally speaking, most things look buffed, with the obvious sort of meta items and stronger sets being toned down a bit. There seem to be many pet-related buffs strewn about as well. Rekt by Protoss does a pretty good in-depth overview of these game tweaks over on his YouTube channel, as well as his pre-patch overview he did discussing some of these changes and the 14 new items added to the game. I will leave links to both below. Grimtools.com will also have their standard patch-to-patch comparison lists generated once the database is all updated. There's a note under the tech portion of the patch that states the loot randomizer table _dynamic was increased to 120. I don't know what this means, but it won't affect the base game. It sounded exciting, but turns out it's intended for the modding community. With 1.1.6 now in the books, the future will hold more. 1.1.7 will see some geographical changes brought to the world of Cairn, so stay tuned. Well, that one took a while to make. If you enjoy more content like this, then make sure you like and subscribe or whatever. Even follow me on Twitch, because I stream there, believe it or not. But yeah, I'm going to head out now.